I am not a vengeful person. I am not an expert in getting even. But I am an expert in patience. And that real estate agent, that slick, lying son of a bitch, he taught me a very expensive lesson, that a single moment of betrayal can cost you 7 years of freedom. So I decided he needed to learn a lesson too. And all it took was one anniversary, a few well-placed words, and 6 years of waiting, to cost him his house, his career, and his entire life. If you have ever felt that crushing, suffocating weight of being utterly and completely screwed over, of having a powerful person lie to your face and get away with it, then hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready. Because this isn't just a story about revenge. It's a psychological slow burn about how a small, seemingly harmless lie can dismantle a life. This is the story of Elle, and the real estate agent who should have just kept his word. 7 years ago, I had a dream that probably sounds small to some, but it was monumental to me, a home of my own. For 10 years, I lived like a monk. I worked double shifts. I denied myself every luxury, every impulse buy. I watched my friends move into beautiful places and start families while I was meticulously, aggressively saving. That moment, holding the keys to my own place, was supposed to be my triumph. A validation of all that sacrifice. I remember standing in the empty living room, the smell of fresh paint and possibility, and a wave of pure, unadulterated peace washed over me. I'd done it. I was finally free. But being a single buyer meant compromises. I had to look at shared properties, places on a strata title. If you don't know, a strata title is a shared block with communal funds, bylaws, and neighbors who get to vote on how you live. For an introverted, private person like me, that was a waking nightmare. I wanted privacy. I wanted freedom. So I searched and searched until I found the perfect place. A shared block, yes, but crucially, it was a freehold title. That meant no strata, no committees, no bylaws, just me and the other owners splitting the cost of the shared path insurance. I had that promise in writing. The real estate agent was a local guy, let's call him Gary. He was smooth, confident, and had that aura of someone who knew the right people. He was 2 or 3 connections removed from my own friend circle, which made him feel trustworthy. Like he was part of the community. A guy who wouldn't try to pull a fast one. The paperwork went through. The lawyer, who I'd paid a fortune to, confirmed everything. Freehold. I signed, I moved in, and for about 5 months, I was happy. Truly, deeply happy. Then came the knock on the door. It was the owner of the other unit, a landlord who rented out his half. He was polite, and he wanted to discuss the shared insurance. No problem, I said. Just send me a copy of the policy for my records. When that document landed in my inbox, the blood drained out of my face. It wasn't a standard public liability policy. It was a strata insurance policy. My home, my sanctuary, my long-fought for freedom, was built on a lie. It wasn't freehold. It was strata. I wasn't just sharing a path, I was sharing a life with neighbors I hadn't met yet, bound by rules I never agreed to. All the benefits I'd specifically bought, the privacy, the independence, were gone. The feeling was sickening. It wasn't just disappointment, it was a physical punch to the gut. The world went still. My lawyer was dumbfounded, but in the end, he did the right thing, trying to mitigate the damage. But the damage was already done. I arranged a meeting with Gary, the real estate agent. I was meticulous. I brought the printouts, the emails, the original advertisements, all of it in crisp black and white, with the word freehold circled and highlighted. My lawyer's correspondence was there, detailing his conversations with Gary confirming the status. I sat across from him, my hands gripping the edge of the table, trying to keep my voice even. Gary, I said, laying the evidence out. You advertised it as freehold. You confirmed it to my lawyer. It's Strata. This changes the value and the way I live in this property. He didn't blink. He leaned back in his chair, a small, arrogant smirk playing on his lips. He looked at the paperwork like it was a menu for a bad fast food restaurant. Look, Elle, he said, in a tone dripping with condescension. These things happen. Paperwork gets mixed up. It's done now. You bought the place. You have a home. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? That casual dismissal was a lit match in my chest. He was looking out for himself, sure, but the lack of apology, the sheer audacity of his refusal to accept fault, was infuriating. I entered mediation. I didn't want his house. I didn't want a huge payout. My simple request was this: when the time came for me to sell, Gary's agency would cover the costs of the sale, or do it for free. A fair, reasonable concession for the thousands of dollars in stress and depreciated value he had cost me. His response. He offered me $1,000 to go away. I stared at the check, then at him. He was dismissing 7 years of sacrifice and a lifetime of stress with pocket change. The mediator, a professional who had seen it all, looked at me and advised me to pursue legal action. I had an open and shut case for fraud or misrepresentation. But the thought of years in court, the stress, the endless meetings, my health was already suffering from the initial ordeal. I just couldn't do it. I was powerless. I had been robbed, laughed at, and there was no immediate, clean way out. I tore the check up right there. I didn't say a word. I just stood up, left the pieces on the table, and walked out. The rage didn't subside. It solidified. It didn't burn hot, it cooled into a hard, crystalline shard of pure, venomous resolve. You wanted to play the long game, Gary. You want to think you got away with it. Fine. Let's play. I knew I couldn't get him legally, not yet. But I also knew a scumbag like Gary, smooth, arrogant, cheating the system, had to have a meticulously crafted public image. And that kind of man values his image and his private life above all else. So, I didn't look for a legal loophole. I looked for a weakness. I found his personal Facebook page. It was set to public, naturally. Gotta keep up that community man image. I scrolled back through the months, past the staged photos of happy house closings, until I found it, a photo album titled Boys on Tour. A trip he'd taken to a beautiful, exotic country a few weeks before I bought the property. He was all smiles, cocktails, and a caption about, "What happens on tour stays on tour." I mentally filed that detail away. Then, I did a simple business registration search. These records are often public. And there it was, Gary's personal home address. My plan wasn't about public shaming. It wasn't about vandalism. It was something far more subtle, far more psychological. I wanted to create a phantom limb in his life. A little something that would itch, not go away, and make him question everything. I set a reminder on my phone, the anniversary of the sale. My special day. Year 1. It was 5 or 6 months after the deal closed. The calendar rolled over to our special day. I went online and found a premium florist that served his neighborhood. I arranged for a beautiful bouquet, something tasteful and romantic, to be delivered to his personal residence. Not his office. The card I wrote was simple, but surgical. Dear real estate agent. Remembering you, on this, our special day. She has your eyes. Love, Elle. The name was a subtle, cruel irony. It was the name he had seen on all the contracts, the one he had betrayed. But to anyone else, it was just a name. I imagined him standing in his hallway, holding the flowers, his confident mask slipping for just a second. His wife would see the note. She has your eyes. Who is Elle? Why, our special day. He would laugh it off. A crazy client. A joke. But the seed was planted. Year 2. I waited. The date rolled around again. A different florist. A slightly different note. My dearest agent. Can't believe it's been 2 years. I dream of reconnecting. Always thinking of you on our special day. Love, Elle. I made a subtle shift. Now the notes implied a history. A deep, ongoing connection. I started varying the text to sound increasingly desperate, yet always personal. I wanted the wife to read them and imagine a woman who couldn't let go of their brief, passionate fling. A woman who was waiting. But I added a new weapon. I remembered the Boys on Tour trip. I found an online service that could send personalized, handwritten postcards from almost anywhere in the world. I chose the country he had visited. A month after the flowers, a postcard would arrive at his house, postmarked from a beautiful resort town. The sunset here reminds me of you. Hope you think of me, too. Love, Elle. The beauty of this was its frequency, or lack thereof. It wasn't harassment. It was a single bouquet, once a year. A postcard, once a year. It was just enough. Just enough to keep the ghost alive. Just enough to keep his wife asking questions. Year 3. Year 4. Year 5. I was patient. I had years of my life stolen, what was 6 more years of sending a few flowers? Each year, it became a ritual. A cold, clinical act of justice. I never wavered. I never forgot the look on his face when he offered me that $1,000. I would picture him receiving the flowers, the color draining from his face, trying to concoct a new lie for his wife. The tiny, incremental stress I was inflicting was my payment plan. The psychological interest on his betrayal. By year 6, my confidence was total. I knew the notes, the implied love child, the exotic postcard, had to be taking a toll. You can't lie to your spouse about a random stalker for 6 years and not have it erode the foundation of your marriage. I sent the final flowers. I sent the final card. And then I waited. 3 weeks ago, I got a call. It was through the Friends of Friends network. The human grapevine. And the news was utterly, perfectly, devastatingly sweet. Gary had imploded. He had lost his house. He was no longer working as a real estate agent. And he was getting divorced. The reason? His wife had found out he cheated on her. The story that traveled through the grapevine was exactly what I had meticulously plotted for 6 years. He would get weird gifts and flowers every year, same day, every year. She finally put 2 and 2 together and realized what the date was, and he admitted to cheating on her. I sat there, staring at the wall, and felt the immense, heavy coil of tension I'd carried for 6 years finally unwind. But then, the final, perfect layer of poetic justice was revealed. The part one couldn't have possibly planned. It turns out Gary had cheated on his wife a year before I bought the house. He came back from that trip, the one I saw on Facebook, with an STD, which he then gave to his wife. But the smooth snake that he was, he had somehow convinced her that she had been the one to bring it home. He had flipped the script and gaslit his wife into believing she was the guilty one. And my note. Our special day. It turns out the date of the sale, my anniversary of buying the Strata property, was exactly 1 year after his cheating trip. It was right around the time he would have been at his most frantic, trying to cover his tracks and convince his wife of her betrayal. When his wife looked at the date, when she connected the yearly flowers to the purchase of the house, and the house to that original cheating scandal and the STD, she realized the entire story of the past 6 years, everything he'd told her, was a lie. She realized she had been living with a moral and physical infection for years. She has your eyes, the note said. She probably imagined a love child. He imagined a crazy client. But the truth was, his wife finally saw what was in front of her. He didn't just lose his marriage. He lost his home, half his retirement savings, and his business, his entire professional image, ruined. The man who wouldn't give me $1,000 for my stress lost $250,000 worth of assets over a bouquet of flowers. It was glorious. I didn't mean to destroy his whole life. I just meant to make him uncomfortable. But the reality is, karma, like me, is a patient, spiteful, and vengeful bitch. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes, a little bit. But then I remember his face when he laughed at me. I remember the months of stress. I remember the lie that cost me my peace of mind. And I remember that I didn't break him, he broke himself. I just gave his wife the final, damning piece of evidence she needed to see the truth. Justice, sometimes, doesn't need a lawyer. It just needs time, patience, and a well-placed, annual delivery. If this story gave you that satisfying chill of justice served, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying, long-burn revenge you've ever witnessed or carried out? Was it worth the wait? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this, stories where the villains get what's coming to them, in the most creative ways possible. I'll see you in the next one.